fashion lovers. Welcome again to another interesting video tutorial. In case you are new here, my name is Gift, and if you're an old subscriber, thank you for always finding a reason to stop by. In today's video, I'll be showing us how to sew the beautiful patterns we drafted in our last video. In case you've not checked out that video, I'm going to be leaving the link to the video in the description box. So in that video, we drafted the patterns to this beautiful pencil skirt. So I'll be showing us how to sew as well as how to finish up the vent of your skirt in case you are adding lining to the skirt. Okay, I have a video which I uploaded on how to finish up the skirt vent without lining, but in this video we'll be sewing as well as I'll be showing us how to finish up the vent of our skirt with lining. So I've gone ahead to add the necessary seam allowances needed for this tutorial. As you can see, on the vent area I have 3.75 inches, 1 inch on the side back, half inch on the upper part, and the lining is just 2 inches shorter for both the front and the back side. Okay, we also created a band for the skirt for both the front and back, and the length or the height of this band is actually 1.5 inches. So do well to check out that video tutorial. So here in today's video, I've gone ahead to add facing to the center back of my skirt for both the main fabric and the lining. I also attached interfacing or infused interfacing to the band. For the back side, we have 4 bands, as 2 will be serving as the main fabric and the other 2 for the lining. Also, the front parts for the facing, I've added interfacing. One will serve as the lining while the other will serve as the main fabric. Okay, so do well to label your facing as you could get confused if you've not done that. So now let's go straight into today's video. So in order to start with, we are going to be joining the center back of our skirts like so. Then we are going to come down by half of an inch from that center back line and continue sewing till we get to the end of this line, leaving about half of an inch on that part. So as you can see, I've gone ahead to sew down. I came down by half of an inch like I said before, sew down and go down by half of an inch, continue that line half of an inch all the way to that point, leaving about half of an inch on that part. Okay, you have to leave about half of an inch on that part. Now that we have done that, this is how it looks like. Do the same thing you did for the main fabric to your lining, except that you are not going to be joining the vent area. Okay, after joining, this is what you are going to have. Make sure you come down by like 0.25 or 0.5 inch on that part like so. Can you see? The only difference is that we did not finish up on the vent area. So after joining, this is what you have. Okay, this is what you're going to have. Now you have to decide which part of the lining you want to use as the overlay or the underlay of your skirt. Okay, for me, I'm going to choose that part as my overlay, and in order to do that, I'll just go ahead and trace out that line that we have there with a ruler. The reason why you have interfacing on that part is so that by the time you are putting down the marks, it will be visible or bolder for you to see. Okay, so I'll just go ahead and trace out that part of the lining like so, because eventually we'll be cutting it out. So go ahead and do same. So I'm just making those lines bolder for us to see. After I have ruled out that line, or after I have traced out that line like so, the next thing I will do is to add 0.5 inch seam allowance on that same line. So go ahead and mark out 0.5 inch seam allowance all the way around like so. After marking it out, rule it out just the same way you did for the first line. Okay, do the same, rule it out like so. Good. Now I'm using a fabric pen here. You could use a marker pen, you could use a fabric pen, you could use chalk. So go ahead and mark out that point like so. That point I just marked is going to serve as a notch line. Okay, so after you have done that, the next thing you actually want to do is to extend that line to that point like so. Extend the line, make sure it gets to the other part. and watch me as we cut out that part. Now we are going to cut out this part as we will not be needing the other part. The only parts we need are those lines we ruled out. Okay, so you go ahead and cut out this part of the lining. Yes, cut it out like so. Be careful so you don't cut through your stitch. Okay, so after cutting it out, guys, this is what you're going to have, and of course we are going to be discarding this part. We do not need it anymore. Cool. So guys, this is what you have. Now the next thing you want to do, guys, I told us in my last video that I mistakenly drafted out the band with my skirt, of which I was supposed to cut it out. So I'm just going ahead to cut out the band from the main fabric for both the front and back. Okay, make sure you cut out your band on your pattern. Good. So now after I have done that, the next thing we want to do is to go ahead and place the lining parts to the main fabric. I had to zoom this in so we can see exactly what I am doing. Okay, I want to show us what we'll do next so that it will be clearer and bolder for us to see. Good. Remember the ½ inch we left on the main fabric? We are going to be needing it now. So what you want to do is place your lining on the fabric like so. Now with the right side facing you and the wrong side facing the wrong side of the fabric. Okay, make sure they align. Be sure they align because you need them to fit properly. Now after you have done that, the next thing you want to do is to turn it over like this. Can you see? Turn your lining over like this and pick one part, that part that you did not cut out. Pick that part and then pick this part of the main fabric. Can you see? And then join it to the lining like so. Join it to the lining like so and go ahead and run 0.5 inch run a stitch of 0.5 inch, leaving about 0.5 inch on the hemline. Now I'm going to go ahead and pin down that part so that it will be easier for me to sew by the time I take it to the sewing machine. Guys, you need to work with pins. It helps a lot. Okay, so I'll pin it down and then run a stitch, 0.5 inch stitch down like so, but I will leave about 0.5 inch on the hemline. I will do that now and then show us what it looks like. Okay, good. So now that I'm done stitching that part, this is what it looks like. Can you see? Good. I stitched it all the way down to that point, leaving about 0.5 inch on the hemline, as we'll be needing this to finish up the hemline of the skirt. Now we are done with that part. We are left with the other part of the skirt. Of course, you don't want to leave it that way. So what you are going to do, remember that part we ruled out as a notch line. Yes, this part you ruled out as your notch line. Go ahead and then notch that part. Please, when notching, do not notch all the way to the end. Good, just notch a bit, about 0.25, or just make sure it doesn't get to the edge. Okay, that's what we are trying to do. So after you have notched that part is going to help you by the time you want to join to the other part of the skirt. Now remember, we have this other part of the skirt which we have not joined. We have joined the other part, we are left with this other part. So what you are going to do is to flip that part over like so. Can you see? And pick this part that you notched. Remember the other part you notched, and pick the other part of your main fabric like so. Can you see? Then go ahead, put them together. Now leaving about 0.25 inch on your main fabric. What I'm trying to do here is that we are not going to start directly from the top of the fabric. You're going to leave about 0.25 on the upper part. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and make that ½ inch line we ruled before more elaborate. Remember, I'm using a fabric pen so it gets erased easily. So now I'm going to make those lines bolder. If you still have your line, don't worry, you don't need to repeat that. Leave about 0.25 on the upper part like so. Good. Leave about 0.25 and go ahead and stitch like 0.5 inch all the way down, leaving about 0.5 inch on the hemline, just the same way we did for the other part of the skirt. Okay, so go ahead and pin that down because you do not want it to shift. Yes, pin it down and then do the next. Go ahead and join that part. So now I'm done joining, guys. This is what we have. Can you see? I left about 0.25 on the upper part, just like I instructed us before, or just like I told us before. Cool. And then I stitched down by half of an inch, leaving about 0.5 on the hemline, as I'll be needing this to finish up the hemline. So after doing this, go ahead and press that part. Press it, give it a very good press. Now that I'm done pressing, guys, this is what we have. Can you see? This is looking beautiful already. Now, good, after pressing, you are left with this part. Can you see? So I decided to show us the front part or the right side of the fabric. Good. So now you are left with this part of the skirt. Of course, you do not want to leave this part open. Okay, so what you're going to do is to tuck that part in. Tuck it in like so. Just go ahead and tuck it in. The reason why you are tucking it in is because by the time you press on it, you need the crease line there. Good. You need a crease line on that part. Okay, so I'm going to tuck it in, and after tucking it in, I'm going to go ahead and give this a very good press. The reason why I'm pressing it down is so that I can have a crease line on that part. Okay, good. So now I'm done pressing on that part, and here is what we have. Can you see? It's well tucked in. So in order to finish up that part, what I will do is just to flip the lining over like so. Can you see? I'll flip the lining over like so, and then the crease line. Can you see there is a crease line there? Yes, that crease line is what you need. Now I want to go ahead and stitch this part together, but I noticed that the notch I gave it in the first place was not enough. So if you're finding it difficult to pick, go ahead and notch that part. Now can you see that crease line? You're going to pick that part that has the crease line, both linings together, and pick up your main fabric, the four together. Now we have two parts of the lining and two parts of the main fabric. Go ahead and stitch on that crease line, guys. Stitch on the crease line. Stitch on the crease line. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead now and stitch on that crease line. The 0.25 we left earlier, this is when we need it. Can you see? Now after stitching, guys, by the time you turn it over, this is what you have. So I also went ahead to show us what that looks like. Can you see how beautiful it is turning out? Okay. Now the next thing you want to do, of course, is to finish up your hemline. Of course, you don't want to leave your hemline this way. Remember the 0.5 inch we left earlier? Good. This is what you're going to be doing with it. So just pick the hem of your main fabric, put it together with the hem of your lining, like so. Put it together with the hem of your lining like so. Go to the sewing machine and stitch down by 0.5 inch. Okay, go to the hem like so. Pick the two hems together, the hem lines, pick them together like so, and then stitch them down with 0.5 inch. Give it a straight stitch. So I'll do that now and then show you what's the next. Okay, so I'm just going ahead to stitch that down. Remember I told us 0.5 inch. So stitch yours down, and then you have this. Now by the time you are done stitching, you see that part that also have some gaps. Just put it together and make sure they are aligned with the first 0.5 inch allowance or the 0.5 inch stitches you gave it before. Turn it over or flip it over, and this is what you have. Can you see how beautiful that is? Sorry, my camera could not capture that, but this is exactly what you're going to have by the time you are done. Now we are done with that part. The next part we want to work with, of course, is the overlay. This part of the fabric. Okay, so now to finish up the hemline of this skirt, this is what you need to do. Please pay close attention to what I'm about to do now. Okay, so first I'll flip my hemline in like so, and then flip this other side like this. So I'll keep flipping it in like so, making sure the hemline matches up with the upper part. Okay, just keep holding it like so to form this triangle or this sharp edge at the hem of your skirt. Okay, keep folding it and make sure both the hemline and this part of it and the part where the lining is starting from or the main fabric matches up. Guys, just take a look at what I'm doing, pay attention, take a look at what I'm doing, make sure those parts are aligning, make sure they align. Okay, so go ahead and pin that point down. If you have watched my previous video on how to finish a skirt without vent, you will understand this part better. So I just went ahead to pin down that part so that I can hold it in place. The next thing you want to do is to add 0.25 seam allowance on that part where you pin down. What I'm trying to do is I don't want to cut directly on the part where I pin down. I'm just going to go out from there by 0.25 seam allowance like so, and then cut on the 0.25 seam allowance line. Okay, so cut on the 0.25 seam allowance line like so. Be careful when cutting this part so that you do not overcut, because any mistake you make here is going to affect the final outlook of your skirt, and you do not want to have a bad outlook or a bad result. So I'll just go ahead and cut that out. Guys, this is what we have. We do not need that other part. So now that I've cut this part out, this is exactly what you will have. So on the edge like so, I'll just notch that part. Yes, I'm going to go ahead and notch that part like so. I'll remove the pins and re-notch so that I'll be able to see where to start from by the time I start joining my skirt. Okay, good. So the next thing I'll do is just to remove those pins I have earlier on. After removing those pins, I'll just flip the skirt over. Remember, we have notched the edge. Good. I'll just flip it over like so. Can you see? I'll flip it over like so, and then go ahead and stitch on the 0.25 line that I marked earlier on. So I'll just go ahead and stitch on that line. By the time I finish stitching there, I'll just hold both the lining part together with the other main fabric and join together. After joining, guys, this is what we have. Can you see? So I'll flip it over for you to see. Then the remaining part of the lining and the main fabric, I will hold them together and stitch down by 0.5 inch. Guys, before doing this, make sure they align with the other part of your skirt. You don't want one part of the skirt looking longer than the other. Can you see? I've given this a very good press, guys, and this is what this part of the skirt looks like. Guys, can you see how beautiful this is? Oh my god, I'm loving this. So guys, I went ahead to show us again so you can see what the outlook, what that side of the skirt looks like rather. Good. So now the next thing we want to do is to bring the front part of the skirt and the back together. Okay guys, I told us we are going to be doing two things in this video. I've shown us the first part, which is how to finish up the vent of your skirt with lining. So now it's time to finish up the whole skirt. Okay, so make sure your lining aligns with your fabric. Then turn your skirt over like so and bring the front part of your skirt together like so. Now guys, I'm going to go ahead and join the lining part with the main fabric, the front part of my skirt. Okay, so in order to do that, I'll go ahead and stitch down the hemline by 0.5. After stitching it down, I'll give it a good press, and this is the final outlook of that front part of the skirt. Okay, good. Make sure you do same for your skirt. After doing this is what you have. The next thing we're going to do is to take this front part of the skirt and then attach it to the what is it called, this the back part of the skirt. Okay, so in order to do that, I'll flip my front part of the skirt over like so, making sure the main fabric is facing me while the lining is facing down. Then I'll take the back part of my skirt, okay, the back part, put it on top of the front part like so. Can you see, making sure they are aligned properly. Now guys, I've not gone ahead to fix my zipper. I only stitched on the zipper line just to put it in place or hold it in place pending the time I'm going to fix my zipper. So guys, now there are two ways you can finish up this part of the skirt. You can either put them together like this, can you see, making sure they are lined. Please make sure they are lined. You can either take your lining and flip it over like so, can you see, flipping it over to the part that has the back lining. Remember, we have already attached our lining. I've also gone ahead to pin down this vent area so that it will be easier for me to work with. Now remember, we have attached our lining to the back part, so it might be a bit difficult for us to work with. So that is why we are flipping over the lining part of the front to the back side like so. Guys, I just keep doing this so that you can see what I'm trying to say, okay? So make sure they are lined. It is very important that they are lined. So I'm just going to pick the lining of my skirt like so. Can you see the front part? Sorry, this video is becoming a bit longer. So I'll just pick it up like so, can you see, and then match it up with the lining of the back. Okay, so either you pick the lining separately like so, the two linings and then the two fabrics separately now, okay, then you run a stitch on them based on the seam allowance you added. So we added 1 inch seam allowance to the sides of the skirt, so you stitch the lining separately by 1 inch and then you stitch the main fabric separately by 1 inch. Either you do it that way or you put the 4 pieces together, that is the main fabric and the two linings, put them together like so, can you see, put them together like so and run the stitch 1 inch stitch down like that. Okay, either you use the first method I showed us or use the second method. However, I'll be using the first method. So I've gone ahead to stitch down by 1 inch like so from the main fabric all the way down to the lining part. I did the same for the other side of the back, and also I gave this skirt a very good press on the side seams so that they can open up for me and then easier for me to work with. Okay, now after you have gone ahead to do that, the next thing you want to do is to flip this skirt inside out. Yeah, you're going to flip the skirt inside out like so. So by the time you flip the skirt inside out, guys, this is exactly what you will have. So go ahead and give that a very good press. So guys, this is what we have on the wrong side of this skirt, can you see? And we are still left with the upper parts. We have not attached our band yet, and this is what we have on the vent area. Can you see how neatly finished this looks? Oh my god, I'm blushing already. So guys, I decided to turn this over to the right side so you can see the beauty we've created. Okay guys, can you see how beautiful this looks? So the next thing I'll do is to go ahead and attach my zipper as well as my facing. However, I'll be attaching my facing first before attaching my zipper. Why? Because I want my zipper to go all the way to the band. I keep calling this facing, to the band. So guys, this is the band. For the front part, make sure that the side back and the side front are aligning, and then put them together. Like I said, make sure you have labeled because you could get confused. Now after you have done that, I went ahead to loosen the zipper line like so, as I'll be attaching my zipper to the main fabric. Okay, I'll be attaching my zipper to the main fabric and then turn it over using the lining. However, before then, I'm going to go ahead and attach my facing first. my band first before the zipper, guys. So I've gone ahead to do that. Can you see how beautiful this is coming out? So I've gone ahead to do that. Now I'm left with that part of the band. So in order to finish off that part of the band, what I did was to tuck in the lining into the lower part of the band. I have attached the band to the front part. I also finish up the zipper edge like so. So what I did was to tuck in my lining. Okay, you tuck your lining into it. Can you see? Tuck it in and secure it with pins. So by the time you secure it with pins, there are two ways you can finish up the band of your skirt. Either you sew directly in the ditch like so. Can you see? You sew directly in the ditch by sewing on the first seam line you have. By the time you do that, it's going to catch the other band behind, or better still, you use hemming gum. However, I used hemming gum for mine. Okay, so by the time you are done, guys, that means you are done with this skirt, and this is the beautiful outcome I have. So I decided to show us the fit and how beautiful this skirt look, and I decided to match it up with this beautiful blazer I made earlier on. So guys, that is just the outcome of this beauty we created. Please do remember to like this video, subscribe, and turn on your notification bell so you can always get notified till we meet again. My name is Gift. Have a blessed day. Bye.